My name is Maris Kincaid, 34 years old. The mug slips from my fingers before I even realize I've let it go. Ceramic shatters against the kitchen tile, the sharp crack echoing through the condo. Shards scatter across the floor, some sliding beneath the cabinets. I don't bend to pick them up. My eyes are locked on my phone screen, thumb trembling as it scrolls, each flick revealing another photograph I was never meant to see. Aunt Marlene's backyard glows in perfect spring light, coral and mint ribbons strung along white tents. 34 guests. I count them twice, convinced the number will change, that maybe I missed myself somewhere in the frame. Cousins I haven't spoken to in years, my mother's old roommate from college, even Great Aunt Judith hunched over her walker. Everyone is there. Everyone except me. The photos show champagne flutes raised high. Fiona, my cousin, my supposed mirror in age, beaming in her coral dress, her engagement ring catching sunlight in deliberate flashes. It isn't just the party that stings, it's the certainty. This event wasn't spontaneous. It had been planned for weeks, maybe months, a grand secret held by everyone who shares my blood. Just last month, I had mailed Fiona a card pressed with flowers from my balcony garden, scrawled with my neatest script. Anything you need, let me help. Invitations, programs, menus, my gift to you. She never responded. The Portland condo I've worked 7 years to buy now feels hollow, its spring sunlight suddenly cold, exposing instead of warming. My stomach knots. I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. Memories wash over me, uninvited. Last Thanksgiving, Aunt Marlene's voice filled the dining room as she praised Fiona's promotion at the bank, vice president at 29, a rising star. Marlene's smile, radiant, tilted toward me only long enough to slice, and Maris is still doing her little hobby, the logos and whatnot. The same hobby that paid for this very condo. The same hobby that landed 3 national brands as clients. My parents sat silent, nodding along as if this narrative of hierarchy was fact. I had even told them I'd saved $150,000 for the down payment. The conversation swerved almost instantly back to the size of Fiona's diamond ring. That was the moment I should have realized the script had already been written, that I was cast as the background character. My hands stop trembling. A heat builds in my chest. I pull up my mother's number and press call before I can talk myself out of it. She answers on the 4th ring. Maris, is everything all right? Concern edges her voice, but it's the rehearsed kind. Concern preloaded with judgment. There was a bridal shower for Fiona yesterday. My tone is steadier than I feel. Everyone was there. Why wasn't I invited? A pause stretches, then a sigh, like I've already exhausted her. Oh, that. Well, Marlene thought you always make everything about yourself. Fiona deserves her special day. The accusation hits like a slap. My knees weaken, but I force myself upright. Make everything about myself? When have I ever... Please, Maris, don't start. This is exactly what we wanted to avoid. Your cousin deserves to be celebrated without... drama. Drama. The word coils around my throat. So I'm drama now? That's what you all think? It's not personal, she says, the same words she uses to dismiss every hurt. But this time something changes. My free hand goes still, the tremor gone. The clarity is sharp as glass. This wasn't oversight, this was deliberate. I'm calling Aunt Marlene. Maris, don't. My mother's voice rises, but I've already ended the call. Aunt Marlene answers on the 2nd ring, brisk and impatient. Why wasn't I invited to Fiona's shower? I ask, not bothering with greetings. Silence. Then, I wondered when you'd call. No apology, just fact. You shouldn't be there, she continues. Fiona deserves a day that's just hers. As if my presence would take that away. I'm her cousin, her only cousin. That's precisely why. Her tone hardens. We've discussed this as a family, and the wedding plans too. I suggest you don't make this into something bigger than it needs to be. Some relationships are already strained. The threat is not subtle. I sink onto a kitchen stool, my phone clutched like evidence. The city spreads beyond the window, the skyline indifferent to my humiliation. For a moment, I hear nothing but the rush of blood in my ears. Then, outside on the balcony railing, a cardinal lands. Its red feathers blaze against the gray sky. It watches me, then lifts away in a streak of freedom. My chest aches with longing. Hours later, while sketching logo drafts, my phone pings with a group message from Marlene. Remember to bring Fiona's wedding flowers on Saturday. Good thing we didn't invite Maris. Less drama. The words blur, but not before I take a screenshot. A whoosh follows. The message deleted. Too late. The evidence is mine. The next morning, I drive to my parents' house in the suburbs, the screenshot burning a hole in my pocket. Mom greets me at the door, dirt on her cheek from gardening, voice bright with counterfeit cheer. Maris, what a surprise. Tea? I follow her inside. The living room is lined with family photos, Fiona at the center of nearly every frame. My own face, when present, is off to the side, caught mid-blink. I got an interesting message, I say, pulling out my phone, sent to me by accident. She looks at the screenshot and doesn't flinch with surprise, only resignation. We all agreed it would be easier this way. Fiona deserves a beautiful wedding without complications. Complications. The word tastes bitter. You mean me. Now, Maris, don't be difficult. She smooths invisible wrinkles on her pants. Perhaps you should make other plans that weekend. Other plans? While my cousin gets married at the Grand Lake Hotel at a $95,000 wedding, where every distant relative is invited but not me? Her eyebrows twitch. How do you know about the venue? Rachel called last week asking about carpooling. I watch the flicker of panic across her face, a small victory. Silence stretches. Finally, she says, Your father and I think it's better this way. Everyone agrees. And what exactly did you tell everyone about me? My voice is low, almost a whisper. That you've always been sensitive about Fiona getting attention. The betrayal lands like a stone in the chest. You're trying to erase me from the family narrative. That's not true, but her eyes avoid mine. It is true, and now I have a choice, accept exclusion or fight back. She rises, crossing to the window. I hope you'll make the right decision. Your father and I have been helping with your property taxes. If you make trouble, I laugh, sharp and humorless. Make trouble? You mean stand up for myself? Refuse to be erased? Her mouth presses thin. Everything becomes drama with you. That's why Marlene thought it best. I leave without goodbye, the distance between us heavier than ever. Hours blur as I drive aimlessly through the city. Deadlines pass. Revenue slips through my hands. My design clients' calls go unanswered while I sit paralyzed, staring at that screenshot, the proof of my family's conspiracy. At dusk, I park along the river, watching lights ripple on the water. The air is cold, biting. My phone vibrates again, another notification. But I don't look. Instead, I stare at the dark water and think of the cardinal. How it simply lifted away. How maybe, just maybe, I'll have to do the same. The morning after my confrontation with Mom, I open my phone, expecting silence. Instead, a stream of private messages floods my screen. Cousins I barely know, relatives who haven't spoken to me in years. Why are you causing drama during Fiona's special time? Family supports family. Don't you understand that? Marlene is devastated by your behavior. My breath hitches. Behavior? I haven't done anything except ask why I was excluded. But as I scroll, the picture becomes clear. They're not responding to me. They're responding to the story already spreading. By evening, Grandma calls. Her voice is fragile, but the words cut deep. Maris, honey, I never thought you'd refuse to support your cousin's big day. My grip tightens on the phone. Grandma, I wasn't invited. That's not what Marlene told me. Her tone hardens, laced with certainty. She said you couldn't put aside your jealousy for even one day. The plate I'm holding nearly slips into the sink. That's not true. Maris, her voice trembles, but it's final. I'm so disappointed. When the call ends, I stand motionless, water running cold over my hands. The family has decided on their narrative. In their story, I declined an invitation out of envy. And if Grandma believes it, the rest will too. I should be working. I have 3 client deadlines. But when I sit down at my desk, the screen blurs. Barton Media's email arrives the next morning, polite but firm. We've decided to move in another direction. We need someone who fits our collaborative culture. 2 days later, Westerly Home Goods pulls out of preliminary talks. That's $27,000 gone in a single week. I trace the connections, methodical, despite the ache in my chest. Barton's director plays tennis with my uncle. Westerly's owner goes to church with Marlene. I almost laugh. It would be absurd if it weren't happening to me. I stop sleeping. At 3 a.m., I sit hunched at my desk, redesigning my portfolio website, adjusting colors no one will notice, spacing no one cares about. It's an act of defiance. If I can't control their story, I'll control mine, pixel by pixel. But the condo feels smaller every night, the air heavy as though the walls themselves lean closer, listening. I start writing everything down in a leather journal: dates, times, words said, witnesses present. Every screenshot is printed, filed. Evidence for what? I'm not sure. Maybe proof that I existed. Maybe a record for the day I finally confront them all. By Sunday, I'm so hollow I barely react when an anonymous text arrives. Some people aren't stable enough to attend formal events. Your absence is a kindness to everyone. I don't need to guess the author. The phrasing is pure Marlene, cruelty wrapped in false concern. The phone slips from my fingers, landing on the couch. Something inside me caves. That's when the doorbell rings. At first I ignore it, convinced I can't handle another blow, but then a familiar voice filters through the door. "I know you're in there, Maris. I brought Thai food and wine." Isla. I open the door to find her juggling takeout bags and a bottle, camera bags slung across her shoulder. She doesn't wait for an invitation, just pushes inside, filling the condo with the scent of basil and spice. "What are you doing here?" My voice sounds hollow, scraped raw. She sets the bags down, turns, and studies me. "Feeding you, and reminding you you're not crazy." I want to argue, but the words won't come. Instead, I collapse onto the couch while she unpacks containers, her movements quick and purposeful. "They're gaslighting you," she says between bites of spring roll. Classic toxic family playbook. Convince you you're the problem until you doubt your own sanity. Her validation feels like the first sip of water after days in a desert. I keep wondering if I should just disappear, I admit, voice barely above a whisper. "No," she shakes her head firmly. "You create something instead. Something worth celebrating. If they won't make space for you, you make your own." The thought lodges in my mind like a seed, too small to bloom yet, but alive nonetheless. Later that night, after Isla leaves, I stand on the balcony. The city lights flicker below, and for a brief moment, I can breathe again. The cardinal returns, perching on the railing, head tilted as though listening. I whisper, "Maybe one day." It takes flight into the dark, leaving me with the echo of possibility. Days blur. I avoid Marigold Coffee because Marlene's Bridge Club meets there Thursdays. I drive 15 minutes farther to another grocery store after spotting one of Mom's friends in produce. Social media becomes self-inflicted punishment. I scroll until my pulse races, until my fingers turn cold. Each notification feels like an electric shock. Another cousin's photo, another subtle caption about those who support us. I set the phone down, but always pick it back up. Work slows. I cancel lunch with a client. I miss a follow-up call. The condo, once a sanctuary, now feels like a holding cell. Then a knock at the door. I freeze. It's late afternoon, light slanting sharp through the blinds. For a moment, I imagine Isla again, bearing food and laughter. But when I peek through the peephole, my stomach clenches. "Mom!" She stands on the porch, her handbag clutched against her ribs like a shield. Her eyes dart as though she expects an ambush. I consider pretending I'm not home, but I know the truth won't wait forever. When I open the door, she steps in without hesitation, scanning the room, cataloging details, the unwashed dishes, the half-empty wine glass, the scatter of design sketches on the table. "We need to talk, Maris." She sits primly on the couch, setting her handbag carefully on her knees. This has gone far enough. I remain standing, arms crossed, the sunlight from the window catching her profile in stark relief. For the first time, I realize I'm not shrinking. She is. When Isla invited me to Santa Barbara for a photo shoot, I almost said no. Work was still fragile, money tighter than I admitted, and I feared leaving my condo would feel like abandonment of the battlefield. But Isla's insistence, her calm certainty that distance might give me clarity, pulled me onto the plane. By the time we land, I'm disoriented by the warmth, the way California light slides gold across everything it touches. Portland's gray weight lifts off my shoulders like a heavy coat I hadn't realized I was still wearing. Isla's shoot keeps her busy most mornings, which leaves me wandering. I drift along the marina, linger at a small bookstore that smells of old paper and sea salt, and for the first time in weeks, my chest doesn't ache. That's where I meet Mateo. He's arranging a display of poetry collections, sleeves rolled to his elbows, when he glances up with a smile that feels unpracticed. "Looking for anything particular?" I shake my head. "Just air conditioning." His laugh is quiet but real. "Then you found the right aisle. It's the coldest spot in the shop." Over the next hour, I forget myself in conversation. He asks about my work, not with politeness, but with interest. When I mention I'm a designer, his eyes brighten. Then you'd appreciate the villa I've been restoring. Sunset makes the walls look like fire. You should see it. I should have declined, but the way he said it, like he was inviting me to share in light itself, felt impossible to refuse. The villa is a cliffside dream, weathered wood and sweeping terraces that catch the Pacific breeze. Mateo talks about history with reverence, each stone salvaged, each beam reinforced. I find myself sketching absent-mindedly as he speaks, ideas spilling onto my notebook pages. He notices. "You see things the way I do," he says softly. I don't know how to respond. I'm not used to being seen without qualification, without comparison to someone else. That night, on his terrace, the ocean burns orange with the sinking sun. I hold my sketchbook like a talisman. The thought rises uninvited. What if joy didn't have to be borrowed? What if it could be built? 3 days later, Isla waves her phone at me over breakfast. "You need this," she says. On the screen is a seaside villa calendar, available dates marked in neat blocks. Hold your own celebration. No family scripts, just you. The idea is absurd, and yet it roots itself in me. By afternoon, I'm sketching table layouts, menus, even floral arrangements. Not for Fiona, for me. The date falls naturally, May 15th. Far enough out to plan, far enough from Fiona's June wedding that no one could accuse me of competition. 18 guests, no more. People who actually want to be there. Designing my own celebration feels different than designing for clients. It's not about branding, it's about truth. Each font pairing, each pressed flower card becomes a declaration. I exist. I am worth more than erasure. Mateo sees me working one evening, papers spread across his kitchen table. "It looks like you're planning more than a dinner party." I smile faintly. Maybe I am. He studies the sketches for a long moment, then says, "Whatever this is, it feels like you." Back in Portland, the city feels less suffocating. My condo no longer seems like a prison, but a studio for transformation. Isla helps with photography. Mateo calls to ask about colors. For the first time in months, excitement flickers without bitterness attached. Then the call comes. I'm stirring soup when Aunt Marlene's name flashes across my phone. I almost let it ring, but curiosity wins. "Maris," she says, voice dripping with false sweetness. "I hear you've been planning something." I grip the spoon tighter. "Yes, an intimate gathering with friends. It's not about Fiona." Her laugh is sharp. "Oh dear, didn't you know? Fiona's wedding date changed weeks ago, May 15th, at the Grand Monarch Hotel. Everyone's been informed." The spoon clatters against the pot. "What?" Coincidence, isn't it? She doesn't bother hiding the smirk in her tone. Now, of course, people will have to choose between your little party and Fiona's real wedding. Think carefully, Maris. Family will take sides. The line goes quiet except for my own heartbeat, thunderous in my ears. I stare at the sketches pinned to my wall, the invitations, the floral palettes, the terrace bathed in sunset light, all suddenly endangered. Should I change the date, apologize for a conflict I didn't create? The thought sickens me. I hear Mateo's voice in memory, gentle but firm. "Whatever this is, it feels like you." I steady my breath, close my eyes, and say words I didn't know I had in me. "I won't rearrange my joy to accommodate your judgment." The silence on the other end is heavy, disbelieving. Then Marlene inhales sharply, as though preparing another attack. But I end the call first. For a long moment, I stand in the kitchen, soup forgotten, phone warm in my hand. Then I look at my sketches again, at the May 15th, marked in looping ink, and I know the date stays. The weeks after Marlene's call feel like living inside a tightening vice. On the surface, the family narrative continues smoothly. Fiona's wedding as the shining centerpiece of our lineage, but beneath, cracks begin to appear. It starts with a text from my cousin Rachel, a woman I haven't spoken to in months. "Grandma's asking why you weren't at the shower. Marlene's story keeps changing. Something doesn't add up." The next day, Uncle David messages. "Fiona gave me one explanation. Marlene gave another. Which is it?" I stare at the screen, stunned. The narrative they constructed is fraying. Threads pulling loose where they thought the fabric would hold. I don't respond, yet, but my pulse beats with a dangerous hope. That evening, Grandma calls again, her voice softer than before. "Maris, I'd like to hear your side of things." I almost cry from relief. The first time someone in the family has asked for my truth. I begin carefully, describing the screenshot, the calls, the deletion. She listens, really listens, and when the line finally goes quiet, I sense she's no longer sure what to believe. By then, I've learned caution. My leather journal fills with entries, printed screenshots tucked neatly between pages. Documentation has become ritual, my way of clawing control back from their narrative. 3 days later, the confrontation arrives at my door. It's a Tuesday morning when I hear the knock. Through the peephole, I see Mom clutching her purse with white knuckles, Aunt Marlene beside her, posture stiff, designer handbag dangling like a weapon. I consider pretending I'm not home, but the truth won't be postponed forever. When I open the door, they sweep in, Marlene's gaze slicing across my living room with open disdain. The evidence of my life, design sketches pinned to corkboards, floral palettes spread across the table, receives her critical sweep. "This has gone far enough," Marlene declares, not bothering with pleasantries. Mom tries for gentleness, lowering herself onto the couch. "Sweetheart, we came to propose a compromise." I remain standing, arms crossed. For once, I don't shrink into the background. The sunlight through the window silhouettes me, casting them in shadow. The reversal isn't lost on me. "You can attend Fiona's reception," Mom continues, voice wobbling. "The evening portion only, if you cancel your party." Marlene leans forward, her tone sharp. "Think of how this looks. 2 events on the same day divides the family, forces people to choose sides." Her words hang in the air, thick with threat. I walk to my drafting table and pick up my leather portfolio. "Let me show you something." Their eyes follow as I spread watercolor sketches across the coffee table. Sunset terraces, menus hand-lettered in amber ink, floral arrangements of sage and gold. Each page an artifact of hours spent pouring myself into something real. This is what Mateo and I have planned. 18 guests, no more. Not a spectacle, not a performance, just authenticity. Mom stares, brow furrowed. "But why didn't you tell us?" I open a second folder, revealing mock-ups of invitations I never sent. "Because you excluded me. I respected your choice. I didn't think you wanted to know." For the first time, silence fills the room, not with dismissal, but with unease. "You made your choice months ago," I continue, voice steady. "This celebration isn't about Fiona. It isn't even about you." Marlene snorts, rising to her feet. "Playing dress-up won't change anything. Fiona's wedding is the real event. $95,000 at the Grand Monarch, 200 guests. That's what a true celebration looks like." I smile, not unkindly. "Then I hope Fiona feels truly seen there." Something flickers across Mom's face. She sinks deeper into the sofa, her gaze falling on a photo of Mateo and me, tacked to the wall beside design samples. For once, she doesn't look dismissive. She looks uncertain. "Were we really that cruel?" she whispers almost to herself. Marlene grabs her purse, muttering, "This is ridiculous," and storms toward the door. She pauses with her hand on the knob, turning back for one last strike. Family will remember who stood with Fiona, and who didn't. Then she slams the door behind her. The condo falls silent. Mom lingers, smaller than I've ever seen her. Her eyes avoid mine as she twists her wedding ring. "You taught yourself you were worth celebrating," I say gently, "because we taught you you weren't." She flinches, opens her mouth, then closes it again. Before she can form words, her phone chimes. She glances down, color draining from her face. "What is it?" I ask. Her voice is barely audible. "Deborah is asking if she can come to your ceremony instead of Fiona's." The air between us shifts, heavy with the weight of an impossible truth. People are beginning to choose. The days before May 15th move with a momentum of their own. While the family obsesses over seating charts and catering contracts at the Grand Monarch, my apartment transforms into a workshop of quiet rebellion. Watercolor menus dry in neat rows on the dining table. Isla's photography gear leans against the wall, her voice bright as she discusses light angles. Thomas drops off a case of wine. Hand-picked from a small vineyard he swears produces bottles meant for real toasts, not staged photos. Gianna insists on handling flowers, arriving with buckets of wild amber roses and sage stems. It doesn't feel like planning a wedding. It feels like designing freedom. On the morning of the ceremony, I wake to sunlight pooling across the condo floor. No anxiety coils in my stomach. Instead, there's a calm certainty. Today is not about them. It's about us. Mateo meets me at the villa terrace in a linen shirt, sleeves rolled. He's been up since dawn, arranging chairs, checking sound, managing logistics with the ease of someone who builds not just houses, but spaces for living. When I see him standing against the ocean backdrop, I realize I've never felt steadier. Our guests arrive one by one. Isla sets her camera gently on the stone wall to hug me tight. Thomas claps Matteo on the back before uncorking a bottle, pouring early glasses as if to say, "Let's celebrate now, not later." Gianna trails petals across the terrace floor, humming under her breath. 18 chairs, everyone filled. The ceremony itself feels almost weightless. There are no gilded arches, no choreographed entrances, just the sea wind carrying our vows across the terrace. My voice shakes at first, but Matteo's steady hand grounds me. When I promise to design not just spaces, but a life with him, one built on truth and authenticity, the words don't feel rehearsed. They feel inevitable. For a moment, the world holds still. Then applause erupts, not polite, but genuine, layered with laughter and tears. Isla snaps a photo just as the sun sinks low, catching the terrace awash in firelight. That's the image Modern Celebrations chooses for their feature the very next morning. I hadn't expected them to move so fast. My phone buzzes non-stop, notifications stacking higher than I can read. 80,000 likes in less than 24 hours. Comments from strangers praising the intimacy, the intention, the absence of excess. This is what weddings should be, a celebration that feels like love, not performance. I stare at the screen, overwhelmed. The very thing my family dismissed as a little hobby is now the reason people celebrate me. But even as joy spreads through me, another detail surfaces like a crack in the glass. At the Grand Monarch, Fiona's wedding unfolds in all its extravagance. Photos flood social media, her gown heavy with beadwork, chandeliers glinting above tables set for 200. But in one blurry image that reaches me through a cousin's story, I notice something odd. Rows of chairs empty, entire tables left half filled. Later, Rachel texts me quietly. Some people slipped out before dessert. They said they had other plans. I read the message twice, heart pounding. Other plans. My ceremony. The thought is almost unbearable. Relatives, once obedient to Marlene's script, quietly choosing authenticity over spectacle. That evening, while the villa still smells of sage and candle wax, a courier delivers a cream-colored envelope. The handwriting is unmistakable. Marlene's precise, slanted script. Inside, a single-page letter. Maris, out of respect for Fiona's privacy, you must decline any further publicity. The magazine feature is selfish and unnecessary. You're forcing people to compare what should never be compared. I should be shaking. Weeks ago, I would have been, but instead, calm settles over me like a second skin. I slide the letter back into its envelope, cross the room to my desk, and pull out a fresh sheet of paper. I write slowly, deliberately. I'm not competing, I'm completing. I tuck the note inside a mailing envelope with a copy of the magazine and seal it shut. No fear in my chest, no hunger for their approval, only clarity. That night, Matteo sets his hand over mine as we sit on the terrace. Do you regret it? He asks softly. I shake my head. Not once. But the image of those empty chairs at Fiona's reception lingers, vivid as the cardinal that once perched on my railing. People are choosing. The story is changing. And for the first time, the family may not control its ending. 7 weeks after the villa ceremony, I nearly drop my phone when Matteo shows me the statistics. 80,000 likes, he says, his grin wide, and 300 comments. Read this one. On screen, a design blogger has written, Maris Kincaid's attention to meaningful details redefines what a modern wedding can be. I laugh, though the sound trembles. All those years of shrinking in family photos, of hearing my work dismissed as that little hobby. And now strangers are celebrating me, not for surviving, but for creating. Work pours in. 3 major brands request consultations. A magazine editor emails, asking for an interview about my design philosophy. My calendar, once thin with cancellations, now bulges with meetings. It's dizzying, and for the first time in months, the dizziness feels good. Isla calls one evening, her voice bubbling. The showcase is confirmed, a restored estate near Seattle, 30 designers, and you're the headliner. Headliner, the word wraps around me like armor. At the opening reception, Isla raises a glass, to writing ourselves into stories worthy of our lives. Applause rises, genuine and unforced. I stand among people who celebrate me for what I create, not for what I fail to be. The contrast to family gatherings couldn't be sharper. 2 months later, Matteo and I move into a modest apartment downtown, smaller than my condo, but bright, alive, filled with possibility. One wall is already lined with framed sketches, another with photographs from the terrace ceremony. I sit at my drafting table one evening, arranging prints for a client, when the doorbell rings. When I open it, Aunt Marlene stands stiff on the threshold. Fiona hovers behind her, gaze flickering nervously. "We need to talk," Marlene says, pushing past me into the apartment as though it's still hers to command. Fiona follows slowly, glancing at the photographs on the wall. "Was all this necessary?" Marlene demands. "The magazine? The showcase? Were you so determined to humiliate us?" I study her face. Anger masks something thinner, more brittle. "You think this is about you?" My voice is quiet, but steady. "It's the first time I've celebrated without worrying how you'd twist it." Fiona's eyes meet mine, uncertain, almost apologetic, but Marlene snorts, grabbing her purse. "I won't sit here while you twist the narrative." She storms out, heels clicking against the hallway tile. Fiona lingers a moment longer, caught between loyalty and exhaustion. "Maris, she begins, then falters. Her eyes dart to the photo of Matteo and me, sunlit and unafraid. I don't know what to say. "You don't have to." My tone is gentler than I expect. "You'll figure it out one day." She leaves, the door closing softly behind her. Later that night, Mom calls. Her voice carries a strain I haven't heard before. "Your grandmother's asking questions. She says the stories don't line up. Marlene's explanations keep changing." "Because they were lies," I reply. Silence stretches between us. "I didn't realize how much we hurt you," she says at last. Maybe I didn't want to realize. It's not an apology, not fully, but it's something. "Mom," I say quietly, "you taught me I wasn't worth including. I had to teach myself otherwise." On the other end, her breath catches. "Can we meet for tea? Just the two of us?" I look out the window, the city glowing with 1,000 lights. Somewhere out there, a cardinal could be perched on a wire, feathers bright against the dark. "I'll think about it," I answer, and for the first time, I mean it. The next morning, Matteo places a copy of California Wedding Quarterly on the kitchen table. Our terrace ceremony graces the cover, headline bold, "Authenticity over extravagance." "Front page," he says softly. I trace the photo with my fingertip. For years, I thought recognition had to come from my family's approval, but here it is, from strangers who see me for exactly what I am. A message pings on my phone. "It's Grandma. Tea? Just us?" My chest tightens. Repair or release. 2 paths, neither clear, both costly. I set the phone face down on the table and meet Matteo's steady gaze. Some choices can't be postponed forever, but for now, it is enough to know I have a choice. The cardinal's wings beat through my memory, bright against a gray sky, rising free.